Hi, in this video I want to discuss 5 not so commonly known tips or methods that you can use on your Pandas data frames. Before I start, I want to let you know that I'm using Jupyter Notebooks via the Anaconda distribution, which comes with Pandas pre-installed as well as other libraries that are useful for data analysis and data science. I'm using the Iris sample dataset from the Seaborn library. I've imported Pandas as PD and Seaborn as SNS, and as you can see, I've loaded the Iris dataset and assigned it to the variable df. So the first tip is using Pandas options and settings to customize the global behavior in relation to how data frames are displayed. So right now, I've input df and I've returned the data frame. At present, you can't see all of the rows, but you can see all of the columns. Let me create a data frame called df_concat. This will be the product of concatenating the same data frame multiple times. So let's see the product of that. And now, as you can see, when I call the data frame, we get 3 dots here, so we can't see all of the columns. Even though the column names are repeated, there are multiple columns. And we can't see all of the rows as well, so you can see here 150 rows times 30 columns. So not all of the data is being displayed. So if I type pd.get_option and then display.max_rows, we get 60. And then similarly, if I copy this and just change max rows with columns, we get 20. So the maximum number of rows we can display is 60, and the maximum number of columns is 20. That's the default behavior. Using set_options, you can change these settings. So if I want to change the maximum columns and rows, I can type the following: pd.set_option display.max_rows and then 999. And then again, I'll just copy this and I'll change rows to columns. So now the maximum number of rows and columns we can display is 999. So if I call the data frame again, we now get all of the data displayed, all of the rows and all of the columns. For more information on Pandas options and settings, refer to this link. It contains all of the information you need, along with all of the options at your disposal. The next tip I'd like to discuss is styling your data frame using the styler class. So let's say I wanted to add a caption to this data frame that's been displayed. Well, I can do that using the styler class. So I can reference the data frame, use the style method, and then the set caption method, and then type iris dataset from Seaborn. And now you can see there's a caption added to the data frame that's displayed. There are loads of things you can do. Let me add a bar chart inside of the data cells. So I can type df.style.bar. And then you define a subset of the columns you want to add a bar chart to. I'll add a bar chart in the cpal_length and cpal_width columns. So you pass it in as a list. And now we have a bar chart displaying the data values. So the larger the rectangle, the higher the value. For more information on what you can do in terms of styling your data frame, check out this link. It contains a lot of information. And there's lots of things you can do, such as highlighting the background, changing the color of the values, and so on. There's a very useful method in Pandas called profile_report, which you can call on your data frame. Note that to use this method, you need to install the Pandas profiling library by either typing pip install pandas-profiling or conda install pandas-profiling. Profile report is a great method for performing quick data analysis on your data frame. So there are already useful methods in Pandas, such as describe, info, and dtypes, which provide useful information. So for instance, on my data frame, if I use the describe method, You get a lot of statistical analysis performed on the numerical columns in your data frame. If I call info, you get a lot of information, such as the non-null count, the data types, how many entries there are, and the memory usage. So let's use the profile report method on this data frame. Like I said, you need to have Pandas profiling installed. So first, to use the method, I need to import the library. So from pandas_profiling, import profile report. And now on my data frame, I'll call profile_report. And now it's summarizing the data set. Great, so it's done. So you get an overview summarizing the data set, the number of variables, which is the number of columns, the number of records, how many cells are missing, and more, including the total memory size, and so on. And you also get the variable types. So 4 of the columns are numerical and 1 is categorical. You get some warnings as well. So this is talking about the correlation between your different columns and variables, and then the distribution of some of the variables, how many duplicate values there are, and then detailed analysis on each of the individual variables. You also get some visualizations too that detail the interactions. So if you want to compare CPAL length to CPAL width, you get a scatter chart of all the data points like so. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of analysis that's been performed. And if you go to the top here, you can see different things in your report. So if you want to look further into missing values, you can do that as well. So this is a great way to perform some really quick analysis on a data frame. You can even save and download this report as well. So it can be a really useful tool if someone asks you to quickly analyze a dataset. You can just send them this report. You can use memory_usage on your data frame to return the memory usage of each column in bytes. So on my data frame, let me call df.memory_usage. And now you can see in bytes the memory of each column, including the index. This can be useful to help you improve query performance and reduce storage. You can perform conditional selection on your data frame. So if I wanted to select all rows from this data frame where the CPAL width was greater than 4, I could type df, and then inside square brackets, I'll have my condition. So I want the CPAL width column to contain values that are greater than 4, and we return 3 records. So this method uses square brackets. Inside of the square brackets, we're evaluating if the CPAL width column has got a value of greater than 4 in each row. This returns a boolean of true or false. If true, then the row is returned. If false, then no. Alternatively, you can use the query method instead. So I can just type df.query, and then inside of single quotes, I'll have my query. So CPAL width greater than 4. This returns the same result. But using the query method, I just had to enclose my expression inside of single quotes. And you might find using the query method syntactically easier than the previous method. Okay, so these were some not so common tips when it comes to working with Pandas data frames. All links to the documentation should be in the video description. Great, so I hope you found this useful. Please like and subscribe for more content.